bringing the animal to a human higher understanding, we bring the human to a lower understanding of animals, which then you're just going to find chaos and destruction, in which there are people that really do know that there's something other than what they say this is, in regards to these erroneous theories, and as opposed to saying, well, one time there was this goo or source, and then life had evolved from that, all of life, and had come up individually with each piece helping each part of the planet to make sure that we all exist and we all can thrive in this world to this higher understanding that you can have if your beliefs are structured in such a way that enables you to have that outcome. So the truth of the matter is that we are not from monkeys. And life is not from monkeys. Life has come from the original source. Again, we're going to go in deeper into that, and how monkeys are not from apes, and how wolves are not foxes. See, there's just things that look alike, but they're not the same, nor they're compatible, nor the one evolved from the other. But if you had something that can orchestrate a cell to become something out of nothing without having to put anything in it, basically through a vibration or some sort of energy that has the ability to do that, it's more believable than things just going any which way but loose and creating this perfect structure that creates this thing we call life. And that although things may appear to be the same, they're different. And although all those things to be different are the same, some things aren't compatible and some things are compatible. Again, I have a lot of scientific language, and I'm really trying to keep it down just to regular language, because every word in every scientific subject that you go into has to be defined in order for someone to spout off 5 or 6 scientific words. Then you end up losing. So, and anytime you want to study a scientific principle, you're better off learning the language first. And then once you learn the language and the definition, then someone can speak fluently in that method, and you can follow, unless there's multiple or triple semantic property of the word, of each word sometimes that a person is using. So by the end of his oration, what you have left is just jambalaya of words, and it's just a big sour gumbo. It just doesn't fall right, because it's erroneous, or it's nonsensical, or it's nonsensical because due to the fact that you haven't went over that material. So they're claiming all these through these fake bones or whatever they're doing, and with the Homo erectus is basically the way they came about this understanding is it's a hypothetical, pathological prefabrication of an erroneous conclusion on a belief, rather than its study and practical application of the scientific method. In other words, don't be fooled by all the either fancy language or made-up words in order to create a erroneous origin through the manipulation of bones, just to say that something is truth, as opposed to a dialect not based on belief or truth, but merely to conclude a opposition or a counterpart to go into the what they call the void. So if you create something or you say something that's true, they can create the opposite and just say, "Oh no, that's not true. This is true." But again, once you follow the truth, there's no way out of the truth, and there's no way lies can be mounted as truth once you know. Within 2 or 3 words, you'll break down their whole entire conversations, and they look erroneous. I've seen so many people claiming this or that, and then when they start mentioning scientists and their studies, only to find out that it was erroneous, and then they get more frustrated and angry because their whole premise or their foundation was built on air, and it's a house of cards just waiting for the right word or wind to blow it down entirely. So they're just using a counter belief because there are people who are in the higher echelons of knowledge that too possess this higher knowledge just to keep you in a state of ignorance. So there's the origin of life is a natural process by which life arose from. For this first non-living matter, such as the simple compounds or elements, or the origin of life. Here, all through life, throughout the universe, with these atomic elements, which form simple molecules and even conditions found in space. So from non-living origin, molecules like proteins from RNA to DNA, and protein from RNA can copy itself just like DNA, but it can also fold up and act as an enzyme, just like protein or any of the elements, the solids, and the gases. Again, going from the atom, from the nucleus to the protons, to the electrons, and then orbits around the nucleus. Again, there's a lot of scientific study, and I'm just trying to decipher exactly what is the best for your understanding. Everything with DNA shares a common ancestry, but this is not proof of random evolution, but that of an intellectual design and purpose and coding in the DNA itself. That of pre-DNA coding from animals, chimps, etc. Also, there are 2 breaths of life that sparks life, or the divine spark of life through all living things has this second activation, and some will call that the actual spirit of life, and that it's given to all of us, but it needs to be understood in all of us in order for us to fully activate as these sentient beings. So unless you're activated or connected, and actually disconnected to the negative connection, then you will actually begin to grow and be activated as we were deliberately made to, so we can have the insight and understanding that we were had originally not only born with, but the ability to connect with this higher form of ether. The ether helps through the higher form of this higher consciousness that enables us to become even better, smarter, stronger, and happier. and anything in regards to more above as opposed to more below, which all ends in self-destruction through ignorance. And again, every living creature, every animal, everything has this energy, and it's structured by this very energy, and it's how it works. Mathematics, in the cells, in our breathing, in our eating, in our structure, in our actions, in our music, in our vibration. You can't escape it. It's what is, and it is all built within this system that we can use and flow from, as opposed to having these rigid points of nonsense. Then we can go into the higher form of understanding, from points to flow. And the point is just simply a point that you need for one person to communicate with another person. They'll say a point, and then when people argue, they go from point to point. And from point to point, you'll see the end conclusion of your life, or the action you're taking, or your destiny, due to that you're following these points to create a flow. So when you argue, somewhere along the lines, somebody is creating a wrong point in order to create the argumentative structure. But if you're going point to point on the right structure, you can't argue against it, because it's the way it's supposed to be, and the way it is. And then somebody would have to defeat that, not through truth, but through lies, because that is the structure, and where you're headed, where they're headed, and it's nowhere. We as humans began again as this one perfect humanoid or tribe, again called the Atom. And from that point, people began to look and use the negative source, and so they began to divide more and more by separation and tribe. And when you separate through tribe and family structure, then you're using the same sort of DNA in that tribe over a long period of time. So you're gaining the total outcome of that tribe and through that DNA, again, which creates a variety of different humanoids, all from the same source. But had we continued to not continue on that source of dividing with one another, we would have become going back to Adam long ago, or never had separated from Adam, meaning the original one tribe. So there are people that always try to say, well, we want to create more of a perfect human race, so we're just going to use the one tribe. But it's a big mistake, because you're lacking other genetics that could make you even stronger and better, which by putting all the people together, in the end, you'll have an outcome. And as we continue, you'll see how this works and how it does make people superior. And again, it's a structure that we come about through now over thousands of years through ignorance, and using this understanding that some people had taken into their bosom, but secretly had keeping it under their hat, because it created a lot of problems before. So they used secrecy to maintain this knowledge. And even in the Bible, it shows how, after the flood, that the knowledge supposedly had died out, but some people had continued this knowledge of death, or the continuation of this cult, the death cult knowledge, in order to access favorability strategically, but there's a price to pay for it, because the way they're doing it is in a structure that only creates death and not life. And in the end, they think that they can escape it, but what's going on is they're just pushing off the inevitable until it finally hits them like a brick. the human race, and people will have you believe that there is this white race or the black race or the Chinese race or the Indian race, and it goes on. Now these are tribes, they're not races. It's only the human race. These are tribes or a group of people that long ago at one time was the one perfect tribe, and it separated from itself, just like the continents had separated from itself, and just like a lot of other things that had separated from themselves, creating other branches, including other animals that are and still are compatible as the main kind of species, but had separated throughout the planet. But you can still put them back together and still grow species that at one time had died out, whether it be like an Arctic wolf or even the giant cats or woolly mammoths. There's always a possibility that if somewhat compatible, that can be brought back. So the human genome and all genomes began with this singularity of that source of that individual life or existence, or even our tribes. That's through that some tribes, if you look around, may still exist. Not, of course, not as the original big us that used to exist at one point, which some people say they did and they didn't. But that's a very slippery slope. Again, there's a lot of things that are not exactly expressed out loud, but people know it in certain circles as in regards to what is, but are not at liberty to divulge such science due to the not only the attacks, but the suppression of knowledge. If the knowledge was so good, why suppress it? Or if it was garbage, if it was garbage, then why suppress it? Their problem is not suppressing garbage knowledge. The problem is suppressing real knowledge. That's the problem right there. So you have this one singularity, and of course that we all exist, and then we grew out through this throughout this world. One scientist said that he claimed that he found one original Chatham tribe, and which I don't even know if it's still up. But I did see that tribe. There was a whole family, and you could basically see people, or you may have seen it, but there's a whole tribe. That the entire tribe has every color eye, every color hair, blonde hair, red hair, but they're an ebony Asiatic man. So some of them look Asian, some of them look what some people call white, some of them look what some people call like a African sort of, what some people claim is African look. But it's only just a different structure. But we all know that in Africa there are different color hair, there's different color eyes, there's different color skin, and there's different heights. And even in Africa itself, you got the Africans that are really tall, and you got Africans that are really little. But nobody's saying that they're from a different race, although you see a big difference, because some of them are almost 7 foot tall, and another whole tribes of these people will be 4 foot. But they can all have sex, and they can all create tall tribes. If Hitler stopped trying to make the Ubermensch out of just that one tribe, if he was smart, he should have got some Asians and got some Africans, and then put them all together with the Germans and say, okay, make babies and teach them correctly, and over time he'll have a good Adam, a good Adam tribe, and educate them and connect them all. People will look at them and say, oh, these must be aliens from another. and probably worship them because they'll be connected. But if an ant is connected to God and a man is not, the ant could probably teach that man, so in other words, it wasn't a matter of height, but a matter of understanding that enabled someone to actually have this connection to the higher source, as opposed to one thinking that, well, he must be an original, this must be this or that due to size, or not realizing that there's a lot of things that fall into play. So these tribes began to separate